Have you ever stopped to ask yourself why you're really building your business? Not your revenue goal, not your 5-year plan, but the deeper reason behind all of it. Because somewhere along the way, I think a lot of us start believing that success means growing bigger, moving faster, hiring more people, and constantly chasing the next milestone. And before we know it, we've accidentally built a business that runs our life instead of supporting it. And that's exactly why I wanted to have Christine Lavin on the podcast. Not only is she just a wonderful human being, but she is also the founder of Lavin Advisory Group, where she helps founders who have reached that exciting but often overwhelming stage of growth where the business is working, but suddenly they're buried under it. And what I love most about our conversation, though, wasn't just her expertise, it was her honesty. Before starting her advisory business, Christine built and grew her own company. From the outside, it looked successful, but she eventually realized she'd reached a point where she had to ask herself a hard question. Why did I start this business in the first place? That moment completely changed the direction of her career. And today, it's what allows her to help other founders build businesses that are sustainable, intentional, and actually aligned with the lives they want to live. In this conversation, we talk about the hidden challenges that come with growth, why more isn't always better, the danger of building a business around someone else's definition of success, and how creating space to step back might be the most productive thing you can do. If you're building a business because you want more freedom, not just more work, I think you're going to get a lot from this conversation. Here is my conversation with Christine Lavin. Welcome to Scale with Clarity, the podcast for entrepreneurs who are building a business and a life that actually feels good. I'm Brooke Cunninger, fractional CFO, strategist, and mom of 3. And I've learned that scaling isn't just about hitting revenue milestones. It's about finding alignment between your big vision and your everyday reality. Each week, you'll hear honest conversations with founders who are redefining success on their own terms. We'll talk about the pivots, the aha moments, and the tough decisions behind the scenes. Plus, the surprising ways entrepreneurship becomes the greatest personal growth journey of all. Whether you're dreaming of leaving corporate, navigating the messy middle, or trying to grow without burning out, this show is here to help you scale with more clarity, confidence, and ease. Because building a business should expand you, not deplete you. Let's scale with clarity together. Hi, Christine.
Hi, Brooke.
Thank you so.
How are you?
I'm great. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
I'm thrilled to be here. I feel like I know we could talk for hours and hours, so I'm grateful just to have even just a slice of your day.
Oh my gosh.
Because I've just been following your work, and I know we've connected before, and I'm excited.
You guys, I promise I did not pay Christine to say that, but she has this is the benefit of podcasting. I was telling Christine before we recorded is that I get to meet such wonderful people, and I have to cut us off because I feel like we could talk forever. And Christine, you are one of them too. So I know this will go forever. So thank you for making the time. You guys, as of recording, we're in what has now been termed May-cember. I think that's what the new terminology, right? So there's graduations. Christine, I know you've got a ton of it with three boys, right? 3 boys? Yeah.
That's right. 3
Graduations, school finishing. So anyways, thank you. And work that we're all trying to grow. So thank you for making the time to come on here. To start, will you just introduce yourself and talk about just your work now? And then I want to dig in a bunch of different places.
Absolutely. So my name is Christine Lavin. I'm the founder of Lavin Advisory Group. That is a growth operations advisory firm. I work with founders in growth stage of their businesses. They're evolving from early traction. They are working off of a business model for which they founded the business, and it no longer serves them. And to sort of draw a parallel to my own world, it's sort of like the teenage boy that has grown out of, that 14-year-old teenage boy that has grown out of his jeans.
Now, and
the pants are too short. It is unsightly. It is uncomfortable, and it needs to change. And we're going to get a bigger size. And so I share that analogy because it seems to resonate a lot. But that's really the stage that I work with founders in. So they are growing at a rapid rate, and things are really humming along. And the founder themselves they're completely trapped under their business, and they can't even see how in the world they can step out for 5 minutes to assess how do I get on top of this. And so so I really help them to come in with what I call an operational life jacket, and I help them to see quick wins that we can get right off the bat that help them to get their head above water, give them more air to breathe. and they can start to see the roadmap ahead of building in systems, process, workflows, delegation, whatnot, that gives them the greater space to do the strategic work and the mindset work to grow their business.
I have so many places in there as you're talking that I'm like, yes, yes, yes. And I want to, 2 points that I want to drill into. One is, I talk a lot on this podcast. I've interviewed a lot of people about the early stages of business, just starting, how you figure out, there's like a lot of stuff around figuring out your marketing and your messaging and just all the stuff, mindset work that you need to do. It's very interesting because several of my clients are at the place that you're talking about too. And I know this resonates with so many businesses, is you strive for this point of, I got to figure out where my clients are coming in and hire my first couple employees. And like, you get there and you think, okay, that is going to be check. Like, I've made it in business, but you're just getting to that next stage now. And it can feel, I don't know, overwhelming, certainly, but it's almost like, this is what I thought I wanted. And now I have all this complexity or I feel like I'm kind of doing everything still. And similarly, I think to when you start out, it's like this mindset shift of like, it's such a kudos to you as a business owner, and it means growth, and it means that you're doing the right thing. And it also means it's time to bring on the person that can help you get to kind of that next level too, as opposed to like, I've built this business that doesn't work for me. Like it's kind of a shift in mindset.
Right. Right. Well, it's sort of just that you're just picking up pace. And if you don't stop and just take stock or reflect or kind of think, okay, why am I implementing this tool? Why am I hiring this person? Why, what is it going to yield for me, ultimately? And if you don't stop and do that periodically, then you're just kind of piling more stuff onto your plate. And listen, we're all guilty of it. We're all evolving and growing, and there is that sense of we have to do it quickly. We have to jump on board. But it's like what we hear today with AI. There's so many tools, but if you don't know what that tool is solving for, then you're just adding in more complexity into your business, into your day, into your mind, that then is just kind of adding, just complexity
Yes.
to your growth.
Yes. And I want to talk about how specifically you're working with businesses. But before I do that, because what else I love about what you're talking about is, there's so many people out there. Social media is so loud now, or wherever you may turn if you're a person in business like this and you're like, I just need to find the answer. I've also had so many businesses kind of burned by consultants that come in and just like, here's what you need to do, but they've never actually lived it. I am actually one. I went, I got my MBA, you learn all these frameworks, you're like, I can figure this out. But until you've lived it and you've like
Exactly.
it, and so that's what I also love about your story is you've been through, you had a business before the one that you're doing now too, and have like worn that hat of what you're helping other business owners also work through. So can you talk a little bit about that? Can we go back a little bit and just say
yeah,
talk a little bit about that first business you started? What was it? And then I want to dive in a couple places from there.
Yeah, absolutely. Because that's really the genesis of why I created this advisory firm and why I'm in this exact space that I'm in. So my career was very nonlinear. My career spans corporate, startup, and nonprofit. So very different
Literally
sectors.
checking the box of every, yes.
Right. Very different across the board. And, so I started out my career in corporate, big, large companies, doing international sales and marketing, using my foreign language skills, all the things, travel, all of that. And as many entrepreneurs have experienced, that you sort of got to a point and looked around and said, is this it? I'm craving more. And I got my MBA as well, and so was checking off all those boxes, and just really felt drawn to the entrepreneurial space. So I did a sharp pivot from corporate. I was in telecom at the time and went into the fitness space.
Was that, can we
Dabbled.
was that nerve-wracking for you? Or had you always had this idea that you wanted to be an entrepreneur? Or was it, what was the impetus to really push you to say, okay, I'm done with this, checking these boxes, I'm going to move to this other thing?
I was always enamored with the idea of being an entrepreneur. My mother was an entrepreneur. She started a baby clothes business out of the our garage, effectively. When my brother and I were little, she grew it into a global business, had her own factory. So I saw that in my family. I remember starting little businesses as a young girl. I was designing these like decorative hats to for people to hang on their walls. And so I loved the idea of starting a business, growing a business. And so I was just enamored by it. And so
Love that too, because
making that shift was real.
because this is what I hope about this podcast too, is you hear stories of people and you're like, you see what's possible, but that's what I hear from you too. And I had the same. I grew up with my parents were small business owners. And I do think that instills in you. I mean, certainly you see the negative side too. I mean, can we cover payroll and the ups and downs and
Absolutely.
trying to find clients? But I think what it shows you and what I'm hearing from you is it's possible to have an idea and go after it. And that's not a crazy thing. And you can build something around that. And it can be like an exciting thing because it's something that you can wholly own. And so I love that kind of was the impetus for you too. And I think as entrepreneurs, we maybe minimize what our kids are seeing from us too, like just that ability to kind of figure out what you like and try and make something of it for yourself too.
Exactly. And I think the pivot away from corporate as
Yeah.
well. I know you've had a number of guests
Yep.
on your shows talking about just that identity shift from corporate. And I dealt with that sort of early on in my career, in my early 30s, to step away from, the big name company, the big name title, the expense accounts, all the perks, and to figure out who was I independent of that. As anyone has to go through when they leave corporate and go into the entrepreneurial space, I think I was lucky to deal with that early on and to have the space to sort of do some digging of like, who am I? What do I really like? And what environments really light a fire in me?
Yes.
And what's the type of impact that I want to make and want to bring to my career?
Yes.
So I did a lot of that reflection early on before starting my
I
business.
think, yes, that's
Um,
key too. Cause I think a lot of people are caught off guard by that,
yes.
this excitement of, I'm going to just, whether it's through burnout or the positive side is that you have something you want to build and you want to move towards. But the, the minimizing that how much we do tie our identity, our ego up into what we've kind of perceived as success and trying to redefine that too. So I think you're
Oh,
absolutely right.
yeah.
Like every one of us needs to go through it. So maybe the earlier you can and just really smack yourself over the head of like, this is not what the definition is and what is it is probably better because you've got to go through it anyways.
Yeah, that ego takes up a big bit of airspace in the room, and if you don't at least acknowledge the presence of
Yeah.
the ego and understand the role that it's playing, it can come out in ugly ways down the road. So it is helpful to just kind of do some of that work in whatever way that
Did
means.
you find yourself doing the work while building your first business? How did that kind of coalesce
So
together?
so interestingly, I did a lot of the work early on before starting my business, and then once I launched my business, I dove into busyness. So I was in the fitness space and was dabbling in a couple of different ventures and was with a golf apparel startup. I had explored opening up my own fitness studio and was doing different things, and ultimately just kind of came across a gap in the market for maternity activewear. This was early
Yes.
2000s, and it was right when Lululemon was growing, right when the maternity clothes were really going sky high. And so I launched a brand of performance-based activewear called Fit to Be Mom. So, maternity
Yes.
activewear that was, with moisture wicking fabrics. And I launched that. I'd already had one child, and maybe I was pregnant with my second, and had this idea, had no experience within the apparel industry. So I found people to kind of help fill the gaps of what I needed to know to
Huge.
get
Not
my
no, nothing on you, but a whole different industry and creating a new
completely
fabric and a product based. That is a huge jump. I have to imagine of
huge
learning.
jump. Right. And I had this idea, and the idea, it just, I saw the opportunity. And so I always say to my clients, to my peers, the best thing you can know is what you don't know. And so I knew I needed somebody
So good.
within the apparel space who could help me with sourcing and tech packs and sample making and all that sort of stuff. So I finally found that person, and she helped me really get this product to market. And once I got it out there, it took off. It was sort of like a grown puppy that just is walking you down the street, and it exploded. And it was which is great. Everyone is telling you, gosh, this is amazing and good for you and whatnot. And I was of that mindset at that point, as a young mom, that, okay, well, I'm going to do it all. I mean, I grew up in the 80s, with that figure in my mind of, the woman in the power suit, the power business
Yep.
suit, holding a frying pan with a baby on her hip, wearing heels, and sort of, yes, you can do it all.
Speaking
And
of
you just put your head
ego,
down
I
and do it.
think that's part of what we all carry is right. Like I can do it, but like, should
100%.
you? Like, I don't think that was the thing that was missing is like, yeah, of course you can. You have the power to do it all, but like, that's actually holding you back. Like, what should you prioritize? That's the
Exactly.
question I still deal
E-
with now. Yes.
Exactly. And so I didn't, for me, I thought that whether it was delegation or building in systems or, that I felt I needed to have my hands in every single corner action operation of the business. Um, and of course, you and I know at this point now, like number one, that's not sustainable. Number two, that's not productive. There's a value of your time as a founder, and it's knowing where that value is best spent and backfilling on the rest. So really over the course of 7 years, I grew this business. I was out of my home initially, and I had semi tractor trailers showing up with factory shipments. With I mean, it was
Your
absolutely crazy.
distribution center was driving up your
My
driveway
distribution
and
center. I mean, I think I remember hiring caddies from the local golf course to help bring these boxes up to the third floor. I mean,
the
clearly the
definition of a
signs were all
scrappy
there.
entrepreneur, surely though, like figuring it out.
It was
But
for sure scrappy, but I just kept my head down and just said, okay, I can just keep doing more and more and more. I'm continuing to build my family. At this point, I now have 3 boys, and what I wasn't doing was giving myself the space, as we were talking about earlier, to just step back, even for just 30 minutes, and look at where am I spending my time that is absolutely not where it should be? Where can I backfill? Where can I start to build in systems so that the business will start to operate in some capacity without me touching it, managing it, all of those things?
I have to imagine, Christine, just trying to jump into that situation, trying to wrap my head around it. The the having young children, which is a new also trying to figure out what kind of mom you want to be and like what you should offload there, which is what every mom and parent struggles with in that term. Like how much do you want to be involved? What's important? But then also having a business exploding faster than perhaps you yourself can evolve as a person to manage that. Like the amount of tasks, you were literally living in reactive mode. It sounds like it would have had to been, right? Like there's no
All the
space to
time.
be like either personal or professional, right? Like it's just, you were just like putting out fires as they came out. Just,
All the time, and getting accolades for doing that. Like, oh my gosh, look how much Christine can do.
yeah,
So it was sort of
yeah.
it was a weird dynamic that I'm doing the thing that I really shouldn't be doing, which is all the things and all the tasks.
So good.
Yet
Such a good
from
point.
the outside, I'm getting these standing ovations.
Yeah.
So that was the other aspect I talked about. I didn't have any systems in place. I also didn't have the advisory service. I
Yeah.
didn't build out a team of advisors or find people to help bring in that other perspective to help me design a
Yeah.
strategy to where I could sustain this business and scale it in a
Yeah.
way that made sense for my life, for who I was, for what I wanted to build. I didn't seek that out because I was just too busy, nose to the ground and just doing all the things. And so I didn't. I needed
You
that.
know what? That's such a, and I know that's what you help businesses, but it's just That's just like, it's hammering it home for me. You saying that is what I talk to my clients about is you grow the business that you want. Like I'm not going to say you have to grow at 20% and this is what, finance says you should do. It is deeply in you as your business was. But despite the answers being inside of you, you're the only one as the CEO of your own business to say, what am I in business for and how fast do I want to grow it? To have an
Exactly.
advisor that is not just on the sidelines cheering you on, congrats, but looking 5 steps ahead of with you and saying, this is the path to burnout. Like, this is not sustainable. And just forcing the pause to say, like, what is let's get out of that reactive mode and just think a little bit ahead of time. And for you too, who has been there, who can see the path clearly and be like, this is the path to continued burnout. Like, I've never thought of it that way too, but even more of they talk about the value that advisors can bring or consultants or what are you looking for? It's both that they've been there and they have the expertise, but somebody who can really hold you accountable and be like, the answer's within you, but we need to stop and pause and like ask the right questions of you. So it causes you to start thinking that.
You just nailed it right on the head. I mean, that's exactly it, is that it's not about surrounding yourself with advisors who can give you more data,
Yeah.
more tools, more information. That's all well and good, and that's part of it. But it's having those advisors who are, just like you said, thinking 5 steps ahead and looking at you, the founder, and saying, okay, let's see how you operate, what it is that you want out of this, what's achievable for you given your lifestyle, your resources, your just everything, your aptitude for growing
Yes.
this, and maybe that's 5% a year, whatever
Yeah.
it is, but anything that is not in alignment with all of those things is a direct course to burning out. And that's the thing, is you've created this whole entity to just have it then just
Right.
fizzle out.
And all that work and that sweat equity that is like you were saying for your business that it has worked. It's building something, but that's not sustainable to the next level. And, I think you didn't specifically say these words, but I will, is you are you're like a board of directors. I mean, and we've heard this before, like even on personal development books, all the books you read, you need to surround yourself with 5 people, the average, and they're going to help you get to the place you want to be. Um, but I think from a business perspective, we often think of that as like, obviously public companies have their board of directors, but at the point that you're talking about, where you are going from one phase of growth, scaling to the next phase, whatever that may be, I think oftentimes, you have you have employees, but you are a person of one. It is so critical to bring in people like yourself and to be like that advisor, to not give you more data, but to say, okay, this is the people that are going to help me brainstorm. What does this look like going forward? So it's so critical to be able to like kind of step out of that day to day and have this set meeting cadence, I guess, for lack of a better term, with somebody like yourself and a group of people.
Exactly. And I really position myself as more of a partner
Yeah.
in how I
Yeah.
work. Yes, I'm an advisor. I consult, I bring in resources and tools and whatnot, but I'm also a coach in a lot of ways, in that I see that the people for who they are. I mean, I had one client who, she no doubt was just severely ADD. She, like, if I gave her pages and pages of a document, it would make her eyes gloss over, and it just was too much. And so I learned quickly how to disseminate information to her, how
Very.
to translate
Yeah.
it into a way that she could take it in comfortably, and she was receptive to it and excited for it too, and not overwhelmed and looking at working with me as, oh my gosh, this is just one more task, because that's the state that they're in. It's just, it's so much. And so understanding that, saying like, hey, I see you,
Yeah.
I'm here,
Yeah.
we've got this, we're going to start to clear a path forward, so that this thing that you've built and created from nothing has a chance to really blossom in the way that you want it to.
That's just
And that's the reassurance I come in with.
Yeah, you talk about, I mean, I know this isn't about marketing and everyone, we are authentic, we're talking, but like that is the value. Like that's what people are looking like. You saying that to me and I'm like, it feels light and airy and easy and like, like, to your point, exciting versus like, oh my God, like, how am I going to, like, one more thing I have to
One more
do?
thing. Right.
Yes. What,
Right.
so sorry, I do want to finish, like, back to your business then, because then I want to drive into currently and like what people can do very tactically about this. But in this state then, so you're building this business, what changed? At what point were you like, okay, this is not the path forward? And I'm assuming then that's what you're also dealing with people who are in this state. Like, is it a go, no go decision on like, does this make sense to keep doing? So like, when you came to that, what was
Yeah.
going on for you at the time?
It was actually a very clear moment in
Yeah.
time that it was pretty vivid. So I had taken my production from domestic. I'd started all my production actually out of the garment district in New York City, and it grew so much, and I eventually found a factory in Guatemala, and I was working with an agent in, I think it was Salt Lake City. And lesson number one, if anyone out there is starting an apparel business, you need a production manager, boots on the ground in wherever you are producing. I'm raising 3 kids at home. I really didn't have the opportunity to just kind of drop the mic and say, peace out. I'm going to go to Guatemala for 3 weeks and manage my production. So I didn't. And I did a huge run, and the grading was off. And grading, so in apparel, it's the sizing. So it's the, what makes an extra small, a small, or
Yes.
that size, a small, medium, large. And all of my mediums and came back basically the size of an extra small, which that is the kiss of death to send a pregnant woman who is
Oh my
exercising
gosh.
a top that is way too small. So I had a massive return rate. Luckily, there was all of the flash sale sites like Gilt Group and Zulily. Those were all emerging at that time, so I was able to offload that inventory. But it was a major oversight on my part that kind of brought the business down, and I got to a point. So at this point, I'm at about 40% of the volume that I needed to be at with my business in order to position it for exit,
Yeah.
in order to sell it. And apparel is all about your sales volume. And to get to that 100%, I needed to just completely scale.
Yeah.
Investment in more capital, more time,
Yeah.
take it out of my home, hire a team. And I was exhausted. I'm 7 years into it, and I was absolutely fried. And I had a moment. I mean, it's always those 2 a.m. moments,
Yes.
right?
Oh yeah.
Where like
Ugh.
everything happens at 2
2
a.m.
a.m. is just
What, what is the
I don't,
deal with
but
2
man,
a.m.?
the world is crashing at 2 a.m. for me. I tell you,
It
like,
really is. I mean, and things are crystal clear.
mhm.
But I had a moment at 2 a.m. and I remember actually looking at myself in the mirror. I was up for doing something. I don't know if it was a kid or work or something. And I looked at myself in the mirror and I asked, why did I start this business? And the honest answer, because honesty is all that appears at 2 a.m., was to see if I could do it. It wasn't to make the world a better place with activewear. It wasn't to IPO. It was to see if I could do it. And to go back to the conversation about ego. I mean, that was so that
Yes.
there was a lot there. And once I acknowledged that, I was able to let it go. So I quietly closed the business down after that. Luckily I was able to get out with all the inventory and everything, and of course learned so much, as every business owner does. And from there, I went into the nonprofit space for several years and did a lot of different work, but eventually worked with small business owners who were under resourced and provided consulting services there. And that ultimately led me to where I am now, in really wanting to get in at this critical point in time with founders to say, okay, you do not have to quietly close it. Let's get some breathing room in. Let's put some systems in place. Let's build a strategy and do it in a way that is sustainable.
I have to write my notes because there's so many things I want to say. I'm going to forget all of these points on what you said. But the first one, I will forget them. There's three, but I will
Well,
get to a one.
we're just going to
Right?
go away
We'll
on a
go.
weekend
Yeah.
together, because that's going to happen anyway.
The fact that you came back to your why. This is so, I don't want to, that is such an important thing because I talk to a lot of my clients. There is, again, whether it's ego driven or you look at what the success, external metrics of success are, often you're pushed for more, 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 bigger, more, whatever. And what I always go back to is like some of my clients, their why is because they want to be able to pay for their kids' college. Like they don't want their kids to have to take out a loan, or they want to be able to go on these amazing vacations every year. Or maybe it is an exit in 5 years because they want to be able to retire and do whatever their hobby is and not have to worry about income. But like that why is so grounding, not only because it brings you back with these pivotal points like this, where your ego could have easily been like, well, back to, I can do it, but should I? But when you came back to like your why was like just to show that you could start this business and you had proven that it was a success. It was a successful business up to that point. And so I love going back to that. I think that's so critical because that will help you in these investment decisions when you're thinking about like, do I pull money from the business? Do I reinvest it? Like as you're scaling, I'm sure you're working, it's
Exactly.
like, what is the why that we're trying to build? Because the business, your life shouldn't be revolving around the business. The business should be built to for whatever the
Yes.
mission and vision of you is as the founder. And so that is, I love that. I love that.
Right. And there's no award ceremony, by the way. Once you say, just because I wanted to see if I could do it,
You didn't get an
I
award or a
sort of looked,
medal. There wasn't
I,
like,
I looked behind me and there was no one calling me up on stage to give me an award or to, make a bronze of me,
or
so
honestly,
it's
even tell you that that you could do it. Like when you pass that point, it's whatever you've
right.
defined it. Was it the first year it was
Exactly.
done,
Exactly.
So that's super important. I love that.
Yeah.
The other thing I love about this story, your story up till now, is this is something that I've struggled with as an entrepreneur is the whole point. Okay. One of the whole points of going into business is, like we said earlier, is you have an idea. And usually entrepreneurs are like, I'm going to go after that. Like you're excited about something. And there's a whole book, the entrepreneur's mindset or whatever. Right. And so
Right.
early stage people, like you have a certain, I don't know, excitement to go after things. And what I've equated that into in my mind sometimes is because then you get to a point where you're like, that's not right for me, or that's not the type of client I want, or this is really the type of business, or I've learned what I needed to learn and I'm done with that. That you could tell yourself, one, it's failure, or two, oh, you're continuing to chase shiny object syndrome. Like there's a way to turn it as a negative.
Yeah.
And what I love
Right.
about your story is this none of it is failure. It is this acceptance of the natural evolution of anybody's career. Because I think when we think corporate, we think it's this linear, like you move up, like you can tell this nice story about how you've like gained more experience. But when you're out doing like you may jump to the right and then forward and to the left, but to where you are now and looking back now, you have such a breadth of experience that you can bring to these businesses because you have had all this. And so I think I think that gets minimized a little bit when we're thinking of like, oh, that quote was a failure. Oh, I stopped that and I jumped this way too.
Exactly. And I know you and I had talked previously, I think, about the, sort of a nonlinear
Yes.
career as, um, is that more or less successful than that, traditional corporate
Yes.
trajectory where, you rise and rise and rise and you're up the ladder. And next thing you know, you're a corporate off or your corner office, you're the CMO,
Yes.
whatever. And I had a very nonlinear career. And it really wasn't until the last several years where I was able to completely reframe all of that
Yes.
and see it as, I mean, that is my advantage, that I have been in not only different sectors, different industries, different size organizations, from being at Xerox
Yes.
and which is
Huge.
extremely process
Yes.
oriented, to a nonprofit, to my own. And so that is really what gives me the ability to come in and see things
Yeah.
quickly. I always describe it sort of like triage.
Yeah.
I'm able to come in and help the founder to sort of understand, okay, here's what's going on. Let's lay all the cards out on the table. Here's what needs to happen first. Here's where you're bleeding. Here's the opportunity that is low hanging fruit. Those types of things, and that's the perspective that I bring in, and then we take action on
I
those.
love that. I love that both that one, why you're so critical to businesses too, but then also your story where others can pull from it is like there is no it's I've said this before too, but it's hard to look forward and be like, okay, where you're going next until you look back and say like this is what I enjoyed, this is what I didn't enjoy, but this is where my whole story comes together because what I really believe is any business that you're building, the only way that it's going to be wholly successful for you is it's going to be uniquely you. you can't replicate. So if you're looking at how others are doing it and the boxes they checked, you're just going to be replicating something else. And that's never the road to any type of success, however you define it in my.
I mean, the one of my favorite quotes ever is comparison is the thief of joy, and or stay in your lane. And I'm a swimmer, as we were talking about this, and it's like you just got to stay in your lane. And yes, you want to learn from peers around you and by examples and whatnot, but that is a practice to learn how much to observe
Yes.
others and how much to just say, you know what, they're doing great, but here's my track, and I am building a business that is right for me. And that gets into a lot of the mindset with founders of, well, I should be doing this. I should look like this. I should, all these things. And as like we can be so hard on
Yes.
ourselves of like, gosh, I should be at this point. I should have this amount of revenue. I should, uh, all these things. And, you're exactly where you should be. And so let's just put the knives
Yeah.
down and then
Yeah.
let's start to just put in some comfy chairs here and let's dig in and build something that's right for you.
And that's why I love to. And I'm going to, next, I'll get a little bit more tactical, but the whole point of like, the answers are within you because it's you, stay in your lane and discerning like what advice do I want to take from these so-called, any experts or people that you bring in, which you should, because you shouldn't have all the answers, but how much is me? And I think the difference is the questions that are asked of you by these advisors or someone like yourself, right? It's like, it
Yes.
is asking the right questions so that you as a CEO of your business can come to your own conclusions, but it's asking those right questions and stopping you before you just run straight ahead and making sure it's not because somebody else was doing it that way and you're trying to replicate something that's not true for your business. And for me,
Right.
I think that's one of the downfalls for people looking to scale. They're looking elsewhere and it's not what's right for their business or where they are right now.
Exactly. And those questions are often uncomfortable and hard and different sounding than the fan club that you have around you, right? Often when you're starting a business and your business is taking off and growing, there's everyone around you who's like, "Oh my gosh, you're amazing. I'm so proud of you. This is awesome." But they're not in the day-to-day operations. They don't see the numbers. They don't know the production issues you're having or whatever, if it's a service-based issue, the clients you're
Yes.
dealing with. And so having that perspective of someone who is going to ask you those hard questions or help you be in that space where you do really have to reflect and do some digging. And that's the hard work. The busyness. I saw a post just on LinkedIn this morning before we got on about, how it's so easy to be in motion and busyness, right? And busyness can often feel like productivity,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
And whether it's in business or in life, like, oh my gosh, I'm so
Yeah.
busy. Well, but what are you
Like a
actually
badge of
doing?
honor.
And
Like
like
I'm
a
so
badge of honor, right? But oftentimes you're just kind of on a treadmill. And so sometimes the hardest work is sort of just being alone with, your thoughts
yeah.
or a decision or, looking at one aspect of your business and really digging in and saying, okay, does this make sense? Should I proceed forward? Should I invest more here? Or is this not really going to yield growth in the way I want it to?
Yeah. Well, yes to all that. I guess really tactically, if someone's in that place, and I know we're almost getting up to time here, but every business is unique. We've already said this, right? You need to look at yourself and kind of the business. But like when you go, say somebody is in this reactive mode and they're just in this next stage, they're reaching some level of success, whether it's sales are starting to come in more than they're used to. And where do you start with them? Like, what's the starting point that someone can say, like, they're just like overwhelmed, like the CEO that you've described? Where do you start? How do you get into more of a sustainable, scalable business process?
Start very simple. So the way I always start with any client, any connection is just a 15-minute fit call. And that's a very brief conversation where they are sharing their business with me, sharing where they are in their business. So I can be sure that I am the right person to help them. There's a lot of amazing people and smart people in our world, right? You're one of them, right? And so the last thing I want to do is be the wrong fit for someone who needs something different than what I am offering. And vice versa. I want to make sure that that's a client that I know I can help. So that's a 15-minute fit call just to say, okay, great, it's a fit. And from there, we then proceed on to doing, I call it a bottleneck snapshot. And it's 60 minutes where I sit with a founder and I just dig in. I have a very distinct drill down questions that I ask to really help me understand different aspects of their business, different aspects of how they manage, where they want to go, just different areas. I don't do it by form. I really like to be with a person,
The
either
same.
virtually or in
Yeah.
person, because there's so much to be garnered just in, the pause and how they
The
answer,
energy
or
behind the
just
answer of what is really causing the
exactly.
stress. Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly. So 60 minutes, we chat. I take that away. I do a whole synthesis, and within 48 hours, I deliver back what I call an obstacle brief, which is a a summary, a perspective of what I have seen. The blockages, the opportunities, the areas that are really kind of consuming them, and then also what the roadmap forward looks like and what's needed. And so that's just a very simple brief that they get with a description by me with a Loom video, so they hear my voice and I'm explaining to them and I'm partnered with them. And then from there we can dig in, and we can work with intensives. So some founders, they say, okay, I want to just get this done
Yeah.
and I want to dig in. I want to spend a whole day. We work together in that capacity. I can work with someone over the course of 6 to 12 weeks, depending on their availability. And I also just have an ongoing advisory service where some founders might not really know how they want to move forward, but they just know they want the support. And so we
That
start
board of
without
directors that they can call. And yes.
exactly.
Yes.
So it's not so defined, so project based. And that's just 2 sessions a month, async access to me throughout the month. So I'm just kind of there in their back pocket. And then that evolves into, various projects. And the other key thing is I bring in people. I don't proclaim to be the expert when it comes down to specific systems and build outs and whatnot. And so I am actively building out my network and my team of people who I can bring in to, if it's a Notion build out, for example, and someone wants to build out a Notion onboarding workflow, great. I've got the person. I'll bring that person in, and we'll do that. If it's a
Yeah.
a specific CRM customization build out, I'll bring in the person to do that. So I am a huge collaborator, and never want to proclaim that I am the everything.
Yeah. I feel like so it's all, I love the kind of process that businesses can go through with you. Talking through that 60-minute, um, what did you call it? Bottleneck.
The bottleneck snapshot.
Clearly, my businesses scale with clarity. So clarity is a key thing that I always like. Obviously, that's something internally that I'm always striving for myself. But that, that, that just there, because what I imagine, and from what I know from those that I've talked to from my clients is, and we've talked about, you're in this reactive mode. You've 1,000 things. You're just, the fire hose is on. You're just responding. You're putting a different hat on each hour a day. To have that dedicated time to talk with someone like you, to
Mm,
just
yeah.
unload all the things, and then have the ability for you, because you're outside of the swirl, to say, to kind of help with this prioritization of like, these are the key things. So we're getting out of reactive and getting into proactive mode of like, okay, these are the 4 things. And then as a CEO, obviously, like you said, you can choose, I want to check this off. This is, yep, let's do an intensive, it feels so much more manageable when I have like a chunk
Yes.
of like these 5 projects, whether I choose to do them all at once or over the next year, and I want to do one every other month, but to just have this path and plan, like just being able to like verbal diary of the mouth to you, and you can kind of
Yeah.
take that and clear it up for me, like that feels so light and like energizing as opposed to like heavy. So I love that process too, to then like make it actionable.
There's a lot of exhales that occur during that session, and that usually at the end of that 60 minutes, there's a lightness of just and all they've simply done is just articulate things about their business. And so it's kind of therapy. I am in no way positioning myself as a therapist, but it is just, there is that release of articulating out all of the stuff that has been building up, and at least you've said it, and then the work can begin. And so it is it's a wonderful experience, I have to say. And it's
And
cathartic.
this might be my personal bias, so I'll put that out there. But I'm a believer that any real any advisor that is worth their money is also a coach. And what I mean by coach is like
Yes.
they are deeply listening to the words that you're not saying. They're meeting you where you are. They're asking the questions that
Mm,
you need to answer for yourself, as opposed to just coming in with this knowledge of I already know this, and we're just going to go down this path of, based on my expertise. So exactly like you said, how like the deep breath that people can breathe just from feeling heard is huge, especially when it can be a lonely place in entrepreneurship. You and I talked about our own journeys, right? Like it can feel very lonely. So find your people that can help you kind of like discover what is holding you
yeah.
back from a business perspective. That's huge. It's huge. So
Exactly. Find your people, and good things come. I
it's,
mean, we had our coffee chat, and we were, not only were we laughing at each other's humor, but I think we were sort of filling in each other's
yes,
punchlines and then laughing so it's, you find your people in whatever context, but you just articulated it so eloquently, of just people that will see you in
yeah,
those exhales
yes.
moments, and pick up on all of those nonverbal moments, of just recognizing those
Which is
things.
the beauty for me of this whole entrepreneurship journey is I get to choose who I want to work with, the people that I want to serve, the clients that I want to. And it's the ones that can really see you, and they just become, it's not just a business transaction. So that's
Exactly.
why, yes, the services that you're providing, the businesses you're helping, it's so needed. How do people find you? What's the best way to reach you? How can they reach out to you if they're like, yep, this is exactly what I need?
So I am, so my website, lavinadvisorygroup.com. I'm also on LinkedIn. I'm a very active LinkedIn user.
Love LinkedIn.
Um, Christine Lavin. And I am on Instagram. I'm slowly making that a little
Same,
bit more
same.
robust, at Lavin Advisory Group on Instagram. And yeah, so
Reach out to
those
me.
are my spots right
Perfect.
now. And always happy to meet anyone and have a
So
conversation.
I
So
will put all of that in the show notes so they can reach out to you. You guys, Christine is just a joy, as I'm sure you hear through this podcast. But that's, like I said at the beginning, this is the joy of me being able to do this podcast. I can meet wonderful people and learn from too. So reach out to
you have the
Christine.
best gig in the world, Brooke.
It's
I
this,
mean, I want to be like you.
this is so great. Talk about building a business and life that you love, like continuing to do that, but just leaning into the stuff you enjoy, and it will follow. The people that you need to meet and those that you want to
Exactly.
meet will follow. So Christine, thank you for taking the
Exactly.
time. Thank you for coming on the podcast and sharing all of your knowledge and your story, because I think that's the most important part, is people can just hear from you what you've done and pull nuggets from that as well. So thank you. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Brooke. It was really a pleasure. I'm so grateful to be here. Thanks so much.
Hey there! If this episode sparks something for you, I'd really love to know. Shoot me an email or leave me a comment on the episode. Those messages really do mean more to me than you realize. And if you're craving more clarity in your business or your career, you can explore ways to work together at www.scalewithclarity.com. You guys, thanks so much for taking the time to listen to the episode. I always love recording these and sharing them with you, and looking forward to seeing you on the next episode of Scale with Clarity.